we want to share with you, how did we get into this in the first place? Why did we go into this? And how maybe you can learn from our journey as well.
And I think the reason we want to share a little bit more about that, we still get a lot of questions about it, of like, hey, what's your story? And obviously everyone knows a little bit about our story about Michael Sig, but there has a lot has happened since then, and since 8 years ago that we started the company. So as you know, from us to you, wanted to give you a little bit more insight on everything that has been happening. There will be probably max like half an hour, but as we're going similar to yesterday, throw your questions in there. And we are just really until the end of the summit happy to answer any questions you have. Really here to help you.
And please keep the questions going. And
I love the chat, how active it is. It's something I so enjoy.
And if you need, after all the sessions from Sam, you need a minute or something, let's take a deep breath, right? Sit up straight again, and then have the power for the last
hour.
Drink
a glass of water.
Drink a glass of hour. Yeah, the last hour. Power. Okay, our journey started now almost 9 years ago. And I was not into health 9 years ago. When somebody would have told me 9 years ago in 2013, actually 2012, you would be running a health summit in 2022, I would have thought they were crazy. I grew up in Germany, very German meat heavy background. Although I was an athlete all my life, right? I had that background, not knowing a lot about food. Kristel and me, we know each other for 12 years. We both studied in Valdosta, Georgia, this little town, and we both studied with a tennis scholarship. So we're both athletes through our teens and early 20s, and felt pretty fit, right? But even there, food, even though in college tennis, food was not really talked about, right? Really. I don't know how you remember that, but food was not.
I'll cover my history.
Food was not. Food was not a really topic, even though you were doing sports, and it was more about get your proteins after the match.
A lot of misinformation, I would say.
Get your pasta before the match. So that was in 2007, 6, and 8, and then Kristel and me. It all started with Kristel and me being in Georgia in the US. Valdosta, Georgia.
Valdosta, that's where we studied.
Valdosta State University. If anybody knows that, it's a small town in Georgia, just above Florida. So we studied there for 4 years, and the healthiest thing there was people going to Chick-fil-A instead of to other fast foods. So that was our background, and then in 2008, end of 2012. I was on a traveling, just did my master's degree, and I was traveling with Kristel around the world. And in Sri Lanka, when we saw each other, I was showering and I felt something in my right testicle. And I was like, oh, this is weird. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in a very cold, rainy urologist office in Aachen, Germany, where I'm from, in early January 2013, and looking around, and everybody next to me is like 70 plus in this urologist office, and I'm there for a checkup. As you could probably tell, this is not a great experience, right? Sitting in this office, I don't know what I was doing there. And then 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, I'm sitting with my pants down on this doctor's table. He has an ultrasound looking at my testicles, not my sexiest moment, I have to say, and told me, hey, I found something in your right testicle. It's not looking good. That's cancer. And that was a shock, right? I was 24, just graduated my master's, just traveled the world, felt on top of it, and hearing these words made me wonder what was going on. Right. Kristel was in my life back then. I went through surgery and I went through a few cycles of chemotherapy. And this whole time I was just on really focused on getting through this time. I didn't really think about left and right. I was just, okay, let's get through this. You're going to be healthy again, tunnel vision, and go through it. And once I was through it, I went back to the doctor after my last cycle, and he said, okay, you were cancer free. And I remember when Kristel looked at me with no hair and my immune system was completely down, I didn't feel strong at all. Kristel, I know you said, well, you don't look healthy at all. And that's when it started, when I realized, okay, how can I, first of all, be healthy again, right? Even after going through this. And I started researching, and this nagging why, I was every day I was had trouble to sleep. There's this nagging why in my head. Why did I get sick? Right? So I was 24. Why? Why do people get sick? Right? In general, why do people get cancer? And I started researching, and I started looking at the World Health Organization and all this information there, and started to realize, okay, there are different risk factors, right? Why people get sick, why people get cancers. And food is one of them, right? The World Health Organization says up to 50% of cancers can be directly correlated to the way we eat, right? So I was like, wow, this is shocking, right? Why did nobody tell me that food is a big puzzle piece, among others, right? Food and lifestyle. And then I went this rabbit hole down and really started more research and realized it's not only about cancer, right? Your food is really connected to the majority of diseases, and especially of chronic diseases, right? That could be as cancer, as diabetes, that is obesity, right? And cancers, right? I said already. So the majority is chronic disease. So food plays a major role. And when I started, that was like a light bulb moment for me. I was like, I never want to get sick again. I never want to go for chemo again. And how do I make sure that I don't do that? What is the biggest puzzle piece I just read was food. So I was, yes, let's change everything I have in my control. So the takeaways there was for me in that time was, if I can't control everything in my life, but I can control what I put in my body. And if that is such a big puzzle piece, I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. And Kristel was in my life back then. She was already more on the health journey, and you can talk about that. But she was the one then saying, okay, now you finally got it, right? I put you on the first detox. And I remember my first detox, and I put you on a more plant-based diet. And that is how our journey began. That's how my journey began. So both our journey began, because
my journey began a little earlier.
But that's when I was convinced that not only for myself, but when I realized how good I felt starting with my first detox, when I first ate better, much more plant-based in the beginning, I felt so much more so much more productive. I felt so much better. My immune system came back. My hairs came back quicker, and I looked better in terms of being fitter. And so when I started to realize that my own effects, I was like, why is not everybody talking about this? Why are we not all talking about how food can affect your health, right? Dr. Lee is talking about it for 20, 30 years, but I was like, I didn't hear anything about this. And how can we help? How can I help to really make sure people are not getting sick, right? Or when they're sick, getting healthier. And that became our mission, my mission, right, in my life, to not from a scientific standpoint, because all science is out there. We heard it from Dr. Lee, from Sam, but really from a consumer standpoint. Can we personal experience, right? Can we inspire people to eat healthier?
Yeah. So my journey was a little bit different. I grew up and was actually, like, already since I was a little baby, I had eczema, and I always had, and it fluctuated, but it's something I had even for my teenage years. And it was a journey, but it was a really important one, because what I learned already in my teenage years, around 11 or 12, I think I kind of like clicked in my mind, is that when I ate certain foods, I would get a rash. And if I would eat other foods, I wouldn't get a rash. So from a very early age on, I had this connection where I was like, oh, what I eat actually truly has an effect on my body, because I could see it. I could see it in my skin. And I think that combined with my mom and my aunt, who are both orthomolecular nutritionists, so that actually means they really look at what food on a molecular level is actually doing at the body, is where I learned a lot about food. I went to a lot of different holistic doctors. I learned from them. I always asked a lot of questions. And it's funny, even throughout college, I still had a lot of problems. But I was on this journey, and I was always experimenting and trying different things. What is working for me? And there were periods where it was better. It was not all food. And I think that's really important to realize, right? Food is a really big piece of the health puzzle. But the moments where I had a lot of stress and where I was emotionally not really good, that's also often when my eczema started to flare up more too. And then a really important point for me was, while he was sick, I think I
during
was
my chemo,
20, during your chemo, I was like 21, 22 years old. And I watched the movie Forks Over Knives. And he had cancer. My mom had cancer when I was younger. And what I just really realized, what they describe in this movie is really I'm going to simplify it, but it's epigenetics, where you can really turn off your cancer genes or turn them on based off of what you're eating. And that made such a big impact on me. And they basically say, if you eat 95% of what you're eating is plant-based, you're actually turning off those genes. And then it was just like such a moment. And I was like, oh, that's like I can actually have a little piece of control of like that. I don't have to go through that. I turned plant-based the next day. And I was already in a journey of like superfoods and different things. So like, but with going plant-based, mostly whole foods, it still took me a good 2 years to completely heal my eczema. So it still has been a longer journey. Nobody now could ever tell that I had rash all over my body, and that my whole body was also inflamed. I was a lot more swollen and bloated. But that's really has been a big piece of my journey. And Michael kind of like intersected that, where I also started to teach him, right? Where I did a lot of detoxes and I kind of just pulled them in. And I had this cabinet full of superfoods with like 30 different bags. And I was like, okay, Michael, I'm going to take you to Whole Foods. We're going to buy wheatgrass. We're going to buy maca. We're going to buy this and spirulina. And he was like, what is this? This is super expensive. This is so complicated. I don't get it. And that's really where I had this empty jar, grabbed some of my bags, threw a bunch of things together, which is very similar to nowadays the super green mix. And I said, whatever you do, take this every single day.
Because we realized, right, and all of you know that, right, life happens. We have all busy lives. And even when I wanted to eat healthy, right, on the start of my journey, I was feeling lost. I was like, okay, does it mean I need to eat now a kilo of spinach every day? How do I do that, right? I'm still starting to work somewhere. How do I do that, right? And when Kristel introduced me to superfoods, I was like, what are superfoods? From Germany, in small town.
You were a little skeptical?
Germans is pretty skeptical of everything. So I was in that German mindset. It's like, well, that cannot be real, right? Let me start researching, right? And when I started researching spirulina or wheatgrass, for example, I read and I realized that it has been around for hundreds and thousands of years. Nothing of these ingredients are so powerful. They've been well researched. Nothing is new about this, right? So it's not just a phase. It has been around for a long time. Our moms and knew some of these
different communities
around the world knew about these food as medicine remedies. And I was like, okay, but in powder form, it's so easy. I can just put them in my juice or in my water or sprinkle them over and get a ton of nutrition. So I was like, okay, if healthy eating is hard, normally the superfoods can really help to make it easier and get more fruits and vegetables in my diet, because that I was looking for, right? And we're telling you this because we want to know that we are not scientists, right? We're like normal people that were on this health journey, and we saw everything, all this data is out there, right? And we can change as normal people. I'm not a good cook, wasn't a good cook, right?
Still
I wasn't
a good cook.
okay. Right. So but everybody can do it, right? Everybody's in control ultimately what they put in their body, right? And if we can make a huge difference, and still 9 years later, we all know in this call, right, know a ton of people who are having chronic diseases, who cannot live their healthiest and fullest life because they're not their healthiest self, right? Whether it's obesity, right, or heart disease or cancer, right? We all know people. I have people in my own family still.
I would even say it's even smaller things, right? Because sometimes it can just mean you're feeling tired every day, and therefore you just don't feel good every day, right? And I think it's sometimes we don't even know what we miss and how good we can feel if we actually really truly take care of ourselves. So I think that's super, super important. And I think the piece we realized I have a slideshow actually with that goes a little bit through all the years with some pictures, and you can see our baby faces from 8 years ago, which is really funny. I was just looking at them this morning and I was just like, oh, we look so young. But we really realized there are more Michaels in this world, right? And even when I plant-based, it was a transition. I think the first month I ate so many tomatoes and zucchinis and hummus and maybe some broccoli. That was about like my range of recipes that I had roasted, and it was very limited. And change takes time, right? And change takes effort, and it's not easy always to change your habits. So it's like, be gentle with yourself, and whether you're like a hardcore cold turkey person, which like or tofurkey, you have to say. But that was more me. For him, it was more of a gentle process. I think both ways are totally fine. And I think it's really just about making those changes over time. And if you sometimes I told myself, if I really crave cheese, and there were a couple of things that I craved, like salmon, I actually, even though I was 100% plant-based, I would then sometimes say like, oh, I'm just going to have a little bit. And it was so interesting because I would eat it instead of making this whole thing in my head, right? I would just have a couple bites and I was like, this is it, right? And I think that's just so important to realize. We always say, if we can do it, we know you can do it too. We're just two very normal people.
And that's why we bring you on this health summit, because we're learning from people like Dr. Lee, right? We're learning from Sam, we're learning from Kelly Goris, and we can learn all together, right? And it doesn't have to be complicated. That's why we love all our recipes, which are like 20 minutes or less. But what I wanted to say still is we're so motivated, even the last few years, right? In this world, we need to talk about to really take care of our health and immune system, right? Because it's well known people with chronic diseases, even the last 2 years, have been more receptive to a virus, right? So we need to work on our overall health, right? And I hope we can inspire you, and then subsequently, right, the people around you. And I know it's hard. I know for all the husbands are watching or not watching
or listening in the background, and like, what's this guy saying?
Right? It's when you change, and I did that in my own family too. If you change, they see how good you feel, what you can do, and how much positive energy you have. All of a sudden, that is infectious, right? Because then all of a sudden, your whole other family say, "Oh wow, right? I want to be able to do that as well, right?" And it's breaking that cycle of not trying or not having the energy. I think it's a lot about the energy. So we're super motivated, and I hope we can inspire you to also be, because it is so important. And we realized the last 2 years how important this even is, right? Moving forward, right? To really work on our health and immune system. And we should talk about it more, right? And I know it's not top of mind for everybody. What we're trying to do, let's have it top of mind. What can we control to really improve our immune system, to really, really be healthier as a person, and therefore can really combat anything that's coming our way.
And I wanted to say one thing, because I saw earlier a question of like, hey, my husband doesn't want to change. And I think how hard it may be, I think everyone is in their own journey, and it's not up to us to decide for other people, right? So the only thing we can do is lead by example. And if they have questions, help them and guide them on their journey, but we cannot force them. And I also don't think pushing it down their throat is the way to go. So I think it's really
just showing them how incredible easy it is sometimes, how incredibly delicious it is, right? Some of these, I hear some of the stories where, oh yeah, he's also drinking the golden latte now because yeah, it's great because it tastes good. And I think small steps, we always say small steps make a huge difference, right? And so if you start small, but be consistent.
That's what we always felt with the superfoods, right? It's a very easy first step to just already get more of those powerful plants into your body. And I also personally really believe in the crowding out. So instead of saying, oh, these are all the things I cannot eat, right? Which feels very limiting. I want you to say, oh, look at all these amazing foods that are really good for me. And I'm going to try to eat more of them. And by doing that, you're naturally, slowly start to eat less of the things you shouldn't be eating because you're actually fueling your body with already the good stuff. So that's really more my perspective. I think we should share the slideshow. What do you think?
So when this light bulb moment we had our light bulb moment, Kristel made this mixes for me because I, like a lot of men out there, didn't know, plus I didn't have time, plus I didn't have the patience to do all these things. So Kristel said, okay, you just do that. So I'm so grateful for her in my life to do that. A lot of people came to us saying, hey, this is so easy, right? I see you doing this in the morning, this green powder in your juice and your smoothie, and I see how good you feel. This is easy, right? I want to also try this, right? And that was the start of your super in 2014, when Kristel and me, in August 2014, unofficially, we're not official yet.
No, that was super unofficially.
Unofficially said, okay, we want to help more people. And how can we do that with superfood? So let's just put up a website and see if people actually would like it, right? Would people actually buy something from us? So what we did, we put up a website, and then all of a sudden we got some orders out there. And then you can see
this was in Europe.
That was in Amsterdam, because Kristel is from Amsterdam. So we were
mixing everything by hand
in our organic certified room in the apartment we rented from Kristel's parents. You can see that in the background. And so we were buying these superfoods you see in the background, and we were like, didn't know a lot about business, or we didn't know a lot about superfoods.
No.
But we were mixing together. So anybody who had the first couple mixes, we apologize for having them hand mixed.
They were good though. They had extra love in there.
They had extra love from us. But that was the first beginnings, because we really wanted to make it easier for people to get more nutrition and make it easy in a mix.
Yeah, let's go a little quicker for these, Michael. There are a lot of years at this point.
Yeah, but I wanted to so this is our mixing room.
This was the mixing room, and then this is actually Michael mixing.
And that is important, which I want to share now, is what we learned.
I want to share that too.
Okay, you go.
Thank you. By mixing everything ourselves, we actually...
What is this for a picture?
Yeah, it's a great picture. What we learned though is that we ordered some of the superfoods. We saw, hey, there's wheat grits from Germany and there's also wheat grits from China. And the one was super cheap and the one was pretty expensive. And we're like, what is the difference? And what we did is that we ordered both of them. And then we were like, oh, one is green and smells like grass, right? And one is like kind of yellow green and doesn't smell like anything. So really early on, as we were mixing these things by ourselves, we realized there's a big difference in where things are coming from, right? Superfoods, I think, is really important to remember, are still whole foods that are grown. There goes a lot of love in there from farmers. And that is one of the reasons why we, really strive to build this transparent supply chain, work with amazing partners together, and really care how and where things are grown.
And that is so important. So we learned this and never looked back. And now we were at some of our, and we'll get some in the pictures, but that was a major learning for us, right? The major learning is that it's not superfoods are not equal superfoods. There's a major difference in even the nutrients and what you put in your body, and it needs to be super transparent. And not only we obviously learned with superfoods, but obviously this is true for all the other industries within food too, right?
Yeah,
all the other products.
It's the same thing if you go to a farmer's market, right? And you want to understand who grew it, where is it coming from? Ask those same questions when you buy something packaged. It's still like cashews in the back. Like they still come from somewhere.
And why do we care so much? Again, because we made the products for ourselves.
Yeah, we use them.
In 2014.
Right? We were probably the main users.
We were the main users, and Saskia, Kristel's mom, who was in the chat, probably the second main user. But what we always said, if the business doesn't work, we would be most sad about for ourselves, because we wouldn't have the products.
Well, we probably would have some left.
Yeah, but up to now, we're using all our products daily, right? And maybe that's the difference to maybe other companies, right? We're in here to really obviously use our products ourselves. Okay. 2014.
Okay, Michael, we're gonna move forward.
So
we went to a lot of conventions. So this was, for example, we were a lot in Germany and Holland. Every weekend, like kind of like farmers market conventions, we went to trying to sell our mixes. You see the can still looked a little different. There's a better picture of it later on too. But yeah, it was a lot of hustle and bustle, and it just looked really funny.
So we were in a ton of workshops. You see Kristel and me
teaching people how to make smoothies.
And then you see our amazing cans.
So that I designed on the right.
Some people say it was a toilet roll. It looked like a toilet roll.
Yeah.
Other people said it looked great because it's we didn't want to.
I'm happy that you think it's so funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. But look at it now. What we always wanted to have is a paper can, not from plastic or like with a million colors. We wanted to have a very simple paper, because we wanted to not like overshadow what's actually in the can. Let the product speak for himself.
We said organic ingredients on the inside, the organic should also be on the outside.
But now when I look at it now, it looks maybe like a toilet roll.
It looks a little bit like a toilet roll with a sticker, but there were none. Then we had in 2016, we had our first office in Berlin. And actually, fun fact there is that our first thing that was actually in the office were not desks, but a trampoline. Don't ask me why, but just super random. We had a lounge party, which was super fun. And then we actually, like, one of the 500 startups was one of our investors, and they actually taught us, like, how do you actually sell something online? Because our products were online, but nobody was buying or knew they were there. So there was a lot we had to learn. We started having our first employees. You see here, Philip also, who is still with us. He's our supply chain manager. You want to go or shall I?
Yes, and then we through the years obviously went really deep on our supply chain. I know some of you really appreciate that. Yes, because again, we're eating the same products you do, so I want to know where it's coming from, right? I'm my own consumer. So we had amazing trips to our farmers in 2017. We were at our hemp farmer for our hemp protein. These are hemp. You see how high this hemp goes. And no, it's not full of THC, and it doesn't make you high.
There's no THC in this one.
It smells like really like hemp, and it's amazing. And this hemp farmer is around in Germany. We're in the fields. For example, we have so many amazing stories about our sourcing that is way too long for this format. But for example, he looks at the plants every day, if they're sad, if they're happy, if they have enough water, not enough water, and it's hectares and hectares of plants. So they really care about every plant.
Yes. We're gonna keep going. You see some pictures of the team. We had a really small team. Then in 2018, which is fun for some of the people here, but that's actually when we officially launched in the US. So before that, we were mostly in Germany and Holland. Our first office was in Berlin. But in 2018, we moved to LA and started doing here a bunch of things. So you see here, we were at Soul Cycle. We did a lot of sampling. We went for the first time to Expo West, if anyone has ever heard of that, but it's the biggest natural food convention in the US. Had a lot of fun there. We were for the first time on TV, which was really fun, and it really, really helped us as well. We were on Cheddar TV. And then we still, as I don't know if everyone knows it, but we have a team still in Berlin as well as people in the US. And we love bringing them together. So that has been really hard the last 2 years. But before that, we always loved bringing the team together because we're one team. And go through here.
Yeah.
You want to talk about this? This was our first little car that broke down about 500 million times, but it was your official supercar.
This is the official supercar.
We made that. Yep. Then the team slowly started to grow. We did a bunch of things together, like playing paddle tennis. We were in the doctors, which was a big highlight in 2019, which was really, really fun to actually show them also like, hey, what are the different recipes you can make with the superfood mixes. And I'm just going to go really quick here.
And then some sourcing trips. We were in Brazil. Obviously, if you're a small company, you can't do some of these trips. Now we could. So you can see here, and there's a slide I want to talk about a little bit, is this is acai in the middle where Kristel and me stand with this bush full of acai berries. And then on the right side is our maca farmer.
Here.
This, you see us a little pale. Why? Because we're on 16,000 feet up there. 4,000 meters, I think.
Nothing grows there besides maca. It's so crazy.
We had a massive headache.
Well,
I had, just because it was so high. So you can see these people care so much about what they grow, right? The person in Peru about maca, with maca, they were talking about the love of the ancestors and calling the ancestors in there on the below in the bottom right. She was harvesting our burana berries, which she is using for 50 years and more. So much love goes in there, and we know it's truly organic. Why do you see that? Because it's in the middle of the jungle and everything is growing around it.
Yeah, it's very biodiverse. So what they often now call this regenerative agriculture, that's exactly what that means. It's actually having an environment where it's not just a monoculture, but actually everything else grows around it as well. And then here on the left bottom side, this is actually cacao. So cacao beans actually have a fruit around it. The fruit tastes so good. If you ever get your hands on a fresh cacao pod, get it. It's so good. And the beans are in there. They're actually purple on the inside, but then they're fermented. And then that's when they get dark. And then if you break it, you have cacao nibs. So that's where cacao powder comes from.
And we officially became a B Corp, which is important. So if you're looking for making the right choices with other brands, look for this sign, B Corp sign. What does that mean? B Corp stands for business as a force for good. And whenever we wanted to start a business, we wanted to always start a business that is not only helping people be healthier on with our products, but has a long-lasting impact and has a positive impact on the world, right? The way we source, who we work with, how much we're paying them. And so look for this sign, because again, B Corp means business as a force for good. And there are other amazing companies out there. They're doing commerce and selling things in the right way.
One of the things I love doing, and I loved and still love doing, is doing calls with customers. I did a bunch of them. I do one-on-one Zoom calls once in a while, and get to know their stories and share those with others again as well. I love that question, by the way. We're going to get back to all the questions I see in the chat, so please throw them in there. Again, bringing the teams together. We started our podcast in 2019. For 2019, we had our first 8 episodes. Nowadays, we try to do every week an episode, which is really, really fun. And then
you see here.
Yeah, go for it.
You see here one of our favorite episodes. Want to talk about that?
Yeah. No, you go. You clearly want to talk about it. Yeah,
you don't want to talk about it?
No, go for it.
So one of our favorite episodes with Dr. I'm blank on the name.
Oh, that's why I wanted me to talk about it. Dr. Campbell.
Dr. Campbell.
He was, I think, co-producer, but he was in the movie Forks Over Knives. He's amazing. He is I think he's 85 years old. 80s, and he is he was texting me at 6 a.m. and he is on 0 medication. He is a doctor, a scientist, and actually grew up on a dairy farm. So he actually found out, I want to just give a little snippet and then listen to his episode because it's so mind-blowing good. But he really he figured something out in the science. He's like, oh, I actually don't want to know this because I want to eat my dairy and I want to eat my meat. But did make a change and actually really helped his wife as well. So really,
he's the author
really
of the China study, one of the most comprehensive nutritional studies ever made, and figured out a plant-based diet is the way to go. So please listen to this. It's an amazing episode.
Yeah. Then 2019, we had for the first time new mixes. So we had Mellow Yellow, we had Magic Mushroom. Then we started also working with more and more charities. You can see it here too. This was when also COVID started. We donated a lot to nurses. We work with people concerned, which is more also with homeless people. And that's something we're just really excited about. Like we really want to have, or obviously want to help you guys, but just overall in the world, like how can we spread health and happiness and help people? Then we had a lot of Zoom calls, and I'm thinking this is probably still a fun one.
And this is where we're at the last year, and this year we're expanding, right, with more products, as you know, with team. We're also expanding where we are sold. We launched in Target.com last year. We're going to launch in stores this year, which is a big step for us as a company, where we really want to inspire more people to make it even more available, right? And somebody asked us here, where do you see our business in 5 years?
Yeah,
This is part of that.
See?
That is part of that goal from us. Can we inspire more people, millions of people, right? I mean, we're in the hundreds of thousands of you guys who did the detox and are part of our group, even right on Facebook, and it's on social media. But can we expand this into millions and help millions of people? That is my goal for the next 5 years. We have
I have one more.
We have actually a goal internally in the company, like a North Star goal, right? Can we in the next 10 years improve 10 million people's lives? And you are part of this. We need you to be part of this and tell everybody and help your family and your households to do that. But that's where we see each other, at least our company, in the next 5 years in terms of impact.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of it is that we really want to go deeper in female health. I think which is very interesting, but if you look at the history also of science, it's very often based also on males. A lot of products, diets, always actually designed for men, even though we use them too. And that's something, a majority of our customers, a big majority of our customers is women. I think we're at spearheading the health revolution. I think it's the women in the household, right, who also then create a change everywhere else. But we really want to create specific products also throughout the life cycle of women, because we go through a lot, right? Our hormones change a lot, whether it's with our periods, whether it's with pregnancy, whether it's going through menopause. So we really want to create products that can help you in those specific life events as well.
So there's a lot of things coming out, and we want to make it even easier for people to use our products. That's why we have more instant products, right? In water, gut feeling, our new gut restore that's coming out. These are instant products, so it's even easier, right? Because we sometimes still hear people, I just have to make a smoothie or latte. So we have some instant stuff coming out, and that's the little history of Your Super, our story, and why we're so excited to have you in our community, because you make it truly amazing to do what we do. You are the reasons why we do what we do. Because we get inspired by all of you. Every time I read a new comment on Facebook, somebody uses our products and has good experiences, maybe gives it a husband, the husband already all of a sudden likes it and becomes healthier. These are the stories that are inspiring us and keep us going.
You care about the husbands.
I care about the husbands.
So my number one tip, especially also with plant-based eating and husbands, and they're like, I need meat. Always do watch the movie Game Changers with your husband. I think if there's anything where you can pull him in and say, it's movie night, that's the movie to put on. I think that's an amazing movie to watch.
Okay, let's get into some questions the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I know we had some questions also from yesterday still that never got answered, so I can start teeing those up too.
I saw one, Jen, that I already can answer, which was at the beginning when we started talking, was where someone said, hey, I have 10 mixes. I don't know how to use them every single day. And I think it's a great question. And I'm going to answer this how I personally do it, and it probably will help you too. I probably also don't use 10 mixes a day. I probably will use somewhere between 4 to 7, probably max, a day. And how I would look at it, there are 2 ways you can do it, right? We say, hey, I have 10 mixes and it's just day to day. You switch it up and say, hey, I want to have my minimum of 5 mixes that I want to be using every single day. And I think how you can really look at that is like, what do you need? What does your body need right now? What are some of those functions, right? Because every mix has a specific health function. So which ones are most important for your health? And we actually, we just launched also a new quiz on the website. So that might be able to help a little bit with that as well. You can also reach out to our CX, but maybe it's even for yourself, just going on a website and seeing that overview of like, oh, these are the mixes. This is actually what I need and want to work on. And how you can also do that is where you say, hey, I have my 5, 6, 7 mixes for the month, and I'm going to make sure that I use each of these every single day. Because what we often see, if you say, hey, I want to work on my hormone, my hormone health, I'm going to be using Moon Balance. It's really a mix you want to be using every single day to truly see the results. So that would be my tip. And I totally get it. There's some mixes like Magic Mushroom is not a mix I use every single day. I do have it at home and I occasionally make it, but like I'm more the golden mellow person. I'm like, oh, I love making a golden mellow latte, right? So we're all going to have our personal preferences based on what our body needs and also based on what we like taste-wise. Consistency is definitely key.
And all right, a question from the audience. Over the past decade, what are some of your own biggest transformations or personal impacts to your health? Any major changes, insights, intuitive realizations that you didn't have before in the past?
Great question. I love that question.
I have a ton.
You want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, you go first.
So we're always learning. The podcast is there to learn, right? We're again, normal people like you, and that we learn from our experts. Obviously, the biggest transformation for me was going plant-based and fully plant-based, and when Kristel made me watch Forks Over Knives. And then we went into plant-based. The amount of energy I have, the amount of clarity, mental clarity, the more amount of compassion also for animals in general, our planet, the impact. I'm just feel like I'm a better person. And then on the smaller scales, from Dr. Lee, actually, one of the things that really transformed us was hearing about soy. Somehow the soy myth was so strong that we shouldn't eat soy. And
Christy Funk also was there.
Dr. Christy Funk was also on a podcast. Yeah. She was talking about breast cancer, and she's has a fantastic book about avoiding breast cancer for anybody who's interested. And she also talked about soy, and we were so inspired by this because although we were on a health journey, we're like, oh no, soy is terrible for you. But listening to these experts, we integrated more soy, more tofu into our diet.
Yeah, that's probably a change we've made in the last, I would say 3-4 years. And I'm thinking for me, I think health is so interesting because it's always a journey. And I think as people, we always evolve, and every year, right, like our bodies might need different things. And I think if I look at the last 5 years for myself, I think it has become even more it's going to maybe sound a little funny, but like even more intuitive, and letting go of the control piece of like, oh, I need to eat this, or I need to do this, and I can only eat this much. And I think especially as women, we're so often right in this diet culture of like, oh, you need to count all your calories, or you need to do that, and that. And I think that's something I didn't do already 5 years ago, but I think I became even more free, where I'm like, okay, there are days where I'm going to be eating more. There are going to be days where I'm going to be eating less. And there are going to be days where I eat super healthy. And then there are going to be days where I'm having a vegan pizza, vegan ice cream, right? And my vegan fries, whatever it is. And I'm totally okay with that. And I enjoy every single bite versus feeling guilt. And I think that mental aspect is also so important. And knowing, right, where I know as women, it's often also about like the weight and the weight loss. And I think feeling so free and feeling that comfortableness, like, and removing that stress of food is so important, because stress is high cortisol. Cortisol means it's actually storing also, like it increases your fat storage in your body, right? So sometimes it's just about letting go, which I think is hard for all of us, and trusting the process. And in my experience, if you eat whole food, plant-based, your body finds its perfect weight. It finds its balance. Like, am I the skinniest I've ever been? No. Am I like smaller than I've been, for example, in college? Yes, 100%. So there's like, it finds its balance, and it ebbs and flows, like as we do with also our hormones.
That's so great. I remember one time I was talking to you and Michael, and I said I ate a whole avocado and I was so worried about it. And Michael was like, no, it's a whole food, it's plant-based. You can eat as many avocados as you want.
Yeah.
So it's shifting that mindset, definitely.
Well, and let me tell you, if you eat 3 avocados, I think you're just like, you're going to be full to here, right? So like that's
Yeah.
the thing with whole food. Your body at some point would be like, I can't anymore.
Yeah. All right. I know we're getting towards time. I want to be conscious of that, but a lot of people have asked about B12 actually. And I know you mentioned it yesterday, just what it does to your body, and also any recommendations on the best way to get it and the best supplements, if any.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there are a couple of brands that I can share. I think overall, you can either take it as a spray, if that's something you prefer. I've also taken it as a pill before, that's melting under my tongue. But something that can be absorbed in your mouth is often very helpful. Gets very quickly absorbed actually in the saliva. So that's something I always recommend. One brand is a little bit more expensive, but it's called Symbiotica is one of them. And then the other one from how are they called again? You know what I mean?
I'm blanking on this.
Yeah, this is bad.
If you had questions on this, we'll follow up. We'll follow up with a couple of complete. Is it complete? No.
Yes, complete.
Yeah,
yes,
complete.
Thank you, Kathy.
Kathy, exactly. Complete.
Yes. But Symbiotica complete. There's also actually a really random one I found on Amazon that I really liked. It had very little additives. So this is the piece. If I look at a spray or something, I still look at the ingredient list and I try to find something. And then the other piece of B12,
very important by B12 is, and we'll grab ours we have right now here.
It's really important.
It's methylene.
Yes. No, it's a slightly different, you call it, but I always say it wrong. But it's methylized. So that's really important because it helps. There are 3 types of different forms of B12. If you want to have the one that's easier to absorb. Yeah.
So that is really important with here it has this name
methylcobalamin.
Yeah.
Methylized.
Do any of our mixes contain B12?
Interesting question. So there sometimes in the grasses because like we said, right, B12 in the soil, there might be some in there, but it's really hard to absorb, right? So it's not the form methylized that we just talked about. So that's not something you necessarily want to count on and use our mixes for B12.
Okay, we have to we'll put in the chat what we meant.
All right, we have 2 more.
It's good. You want to have that version that is actually, thank you.
Yeah.
Sarah, for writing it down.
Wow. Okay. Yes, everyone note that one down. That's a hard word to say.
Yeah.
We have 2 more minutes. So I just wanted to let you guys share any last thoughts, words, surprises. I don't know if you have anything today for us.
I don't have more surprises. No.
No, we just want to say thank you everybody for listening, for tuning in. This was our first Your Super Summit. We're gonna send out a review survey just to also make it better for next time. Wanted to say thank you to Jen, our host, and Kathy in the chat. This was so fun. And we hope we can do this soon again with all of you. And then my only thing is, my wish is,
what is
the last minute, put in the chat, what's your taking you away from these 2 days? What's your commitment and what's your goal for 2022? Put it in the chat. We're going to hold you accountable. Write it down on a piece of paper right now. The one thing you're committing to in 2022, and we're gonna have you talk about that maybe in the next summit.
Yeah, we're looking for a platform where we also can actually where we guys can put you in groups as well, where you can actually even see and connect with each other even more, if that's something you would like.
I see 90% vegan. I see more soy and personal consult. I want to do more meditation and yoga, reduce inflammation.
Amazing goals.
Eliminate sugar. Yes.
Make less brown smoothies.
Who said that?
I love
Make less brown smoothies. Yes.
Chewing with more awareness. So true as well.
drink more water.
I
is a great
love
one.
all the, look at these amazing goals coming in.
Put them somewhere where you see them, put them on a kitchen counter, maybe on the paper. So if you say avoid sugar, so you have that, right? Or more plant-based, so you have that.
Yeah.
We're all not perfect. Again, don't stress, but these are all great goals. Dr. Lee's book is a great one too as a goal. Let's read this and do some of the things that he says.
This is amazing. I'm inspired by all the goals.
So many.
Okay, in the next summit, we need to have them front and center, all these goals, so we can say yes or no. Consistency is key. Thank you all for joining. Have a fantastic rest of the Saturday, and we'll all see you soon.